Hi, welcome to differnce Tech channel. In this video, we'll talk about Docker. Okay, so I don't want to go with the definition of what is Docker, which would be quite difficult if you are a beginner. So instead, let us see why Docker. All right. So let us assume that there are three persons, A, B, and C. A is a developer, B is a tester, and the person C deploys the change in production. Now, these three people have three different machines, right? So now a developer writes a code in his machine A and builds the project in the same machine, and it is all work fine. Now, when he passes this project to the tester to test for any bugs, it may or may not have the same performance as the developer. Okay, there could be an image break or sometimes a page load or a lot many things happen. So this is because the tester installed the libraries and the dependency files required for the project on his own, so which might be of different version, right? So it didn't work. So that could be one of the case, right? So it didn't work well. Also, if the tester is installing it again, it is like a time consuming process, right? If he has to do whatever the developer did to install everything from scratch, it is a time consuming process, and also more manual effort is required, correct? So these kind of issues and situations the tester will face, right? So now if you analyze, if you just see what happened till now, if you just analyze and see why all these issues are occurring, okay, when you just analyze and see, so it is because of the environment or the machine in which the application or software is running is different, right? Because for developer it's a totally different case. It was working fine, but for the tester it is not working fine, correct? It is because of the environment and also the machines, right? So here comes the Docker. So Docker allows you to have everything in a container. Okay, a container, you just assume it like a cotton box. Okay, you can pack all the libraries, dependencies, softwares in one box, and you can send it to anyone. So this is way more simple for the tester now, right? So if I can pack everything in a box and ship it to you, you can just unpack it and there you go. You get everything in the box, right? So it is way more difficult, way more easy for the tester to test it now. Correct. So this is Docker. So this is the use of Docker, and this is why Docker has been bought. Okay. So now you have some idea about Docker. Let us see the difference between the virtual machines and Docker. Okay. So that you can understand more in detail about Docker. Okay. So sorry. Yeah. So if you see here this image, if you see this image, you can see the virtual machine first here and this Docker. Okay, and in virtual machine you have a host operating system, right? On the host operating system you have guest operating system. So on top of the host operating system you are going to install another operating system. Correct. So the guest operating system on top of the host operating system. So which will make your virtual machine heavy, because you are having two operating systems. While on the other hand, the Docker containers, if you could see here, it shares the same host. There is no operating system on top of this host operating system. Okay, this host operating system is being shared by all the applications here. Okay, and we could say that it is a lightweight, meaning that it can boot up in very few seconds because it don't have any operating system here, right? So it can boot up in very quickly in few seconds, right? So the Docker containers are suited for situations where you want to run multiple applications on a single operating system kernel. Okay, so we can have we can have, of course, we can have an OS containers also, where you have OS like Ubuntu, but it is not that we'll be using such containers because most of the time we'll not need a full operating system, right? So if we have dependence libraries, that should be fine. So we don't want to install another operating system on the host operating system. All right. So this is a glimpse on that, and maybe I'll in this slide in detail you can see the difference between the virtual machines and Docker container. So here if you could see, for a virtual machine, each VM has a separate OS. As we discussed before, they should have a separate OS, which is mandatory. But here if you see, each container can share the same operating system. Containers Again, we'll see what this container and things in detail in the next lectures, but for now you can understand the containers has some application. Okay, so each application can share the same operating system. Okay, so virtual machine, it will take minutes to boot because it has to boot from the operating system, right? But if you see the containers, it will boot in seconds because it's as quick as possible. So, and in virtual machines, VMs are few GB sizes. Okay, it will be in few GB size, but in Docker containers it will be very less lightweight KB or MBs. That is why you call them as lightweight. Boots very fast, and also it is very the size of that is very less. And virtual machines, you don't get the virtual machines ready-made, right? So if you, of course, you have it in AWS Marketplace where you could find the virtual machines ready-made. But yeah, but if you take Docker container, you have it easily available in the Docker Hub. We'll talk about Docker Hub also in the coming lectures. But yeah, I could say that the containers are pre-built and they are easily available. And the next one, if you could see, the creating virtual machine takes a relatively longer time if you want to create a virtual machine. But Docker containers, again, it will get created in seconds. And as we discussed before, virtual machine needs more resource usage, but Docker container doesn't need much. It uses less resource usage. So these are some major difference between them, the virtual machines and the Docker. And yeah, I hope now you would have understood what is Docker and why are we using it. So that is it for this video, and we'll catch up in the next video. All right, thank you.